On a bright morning, Nanaka cheerfully greets Hiramu on their way to school. Hiramu returns her greeting with a smile. They walk together, remarking on the beautiful weather that makes them want to skip school. Suddenly their hands accidentally touch, causing a small, unspoken moment between them. The accidental contact leaves both of them blushing and flustered. Hiramu stammers an apology, clearly embarrassed. Despite his embarrassment, he admits to himself that he's happy. Nanaka brings up his past difficulties in middle school, a topic he quickly tries to shut down. Nanaka reminisces, saying she never imagined they would be able to walk to school together like this. She looks at him with a heartfelt expression, confessing how truly happy she is to be with him in the morning. Her sincere confession leaves Hiramu completely stunned and speechless. Their moment is interrupted by other students who spot them, teasing the pair for flirting so early in the morning. A flustered Hiramu tries to deny it. Mika playfully pats his back, telling him not to be shy. Hiramu squirms under the attention, telling her to stop. Throughout the exchange, Nanaka simply watches with a bright, yet unsettling smile. Later at school, Mika and her friends watch Hiramu playing outside. Smitten, Mika considers confessing to him, but her friends express doubt. Her friend points out that Nanaka Takebana is in the picture. Another friend notes how close Nanaka was with him that morning. Angered by this, Mika calls her a bitch and resolves to finish her off. Mika and her friends confront Nanaka in the hallway, who peeks out from behind a door with an innocent expression. The group watches as she approaches and begins to apologize. Nanaka insists she wasn't trying to act like Hiramu's girlfriend and is sorry if she offended them. Nanaka continues her disarming apology, explaining that Hiramu doesn't belong to anyone. To their astonishment, she brightly offers to help Mika confess her love to him. Nanaka then cheerfully waves goodbye. Mika's friends are left stunned, commenting on how unexpectedly nice she is. Once out of sight, Nanaka's sweet demeanor vanishes as she thinks to herself that something is definitely going on here. Her eyes become wide and hollow, her expression completely transformed. A faint smile plays on her lips as she works. Later that night, Nanaka sits in front of a 3-monitor computer setup in her room. She navigates through her files, clicking into the folder for her Class 2C. Her cursor hovers over a folder labeled with the name Sakagami Mika. A thoughtful expression crosses her face. A wide, unsettling smile spreads across her face. A dark thought surfaces in Nanaka's mind. She wonders what Mika sounds like when she's crying. The next day after school, Mika parts ways with her friends. Nanaka suddenly appears behind her, calling her name. She flicks open a lighter, the flame igniting in the daylight. With a menacing grin, Nanaka greets Mika with a crude insult, her cheerful facade completely gone. Mika stares in wide-eyed horror. Nanaka holds up a lit firework rocket, a terrifying glee on her face. Nanaka aims the sparking firework directly at Mika. The terrified girl screams for her to stop. She demands to know what Nanaka is trying to do. Mika screams in terror as the projectile shoots towards her. Mika panics, shouting that she could die. Unfazed, Nanaka coldly compares her life to the price of a cat from a pet store. She questions if Mika's life would be worth 200,000 yen if she were to die. Her expression then shifts to a chilling smile as she brings up Hiramu. Nanaka begins to explain her history with Hiramu, revealing he was a delinquent in middle school. She claims she was the one who brought him back to life and helped him improve. She showered him with undying love, getting closer and closer. Eventually, Hiramu opened his heart to her. It was then her turn to pour her love into him. Her monologue intensifies as she declares herself the only one worthy of being Hiramu's lover. She sees them as the Adam and Eve of a new world, their union absolute and inevitable. To her, questioning her love for him is as foolish as questioning the existence of oxygen on Earth, a truth Mika could never understand. Nanaka demands that Mika admit that she and Hiramu are a good pair. The terrified Mika can only stammer that Nanaka is out of her mind. Nanaka scoffs, claiming Mika is the one who's truly insane. She then pulls out a small SD card, holding it up for Mika to see. With a triumphant smile, Nanaka reveals that the SD card contains proof that Mika is a shoplifter. Mika's face contorts in pure horror. Nanaka adds that the evidence shows it's a habitual act, sealing Mika's fate. Nanaka coldly states that everyone has their own qualities. Mika, she says, has the qualities of a peasant. Nanaka, on the other hand, possesses the qualities of a king. She delivers a chilling warning, never dare to go against her. Hiramu walks home after school, waving goodbye to friend. Suddenly, Nanaka appears and calls out to him. She cheerfully asks if he's heading home too, and they begin to walk together. She playfully teases him, calling him Yankee Hiramu, referencing his past. Hiramu becomes flustered by her teasing, insisting that's not him anymore, while she just smiles knowingly. They walk in a comfortable silence for a moment. Then Nanaka turns to him, her expression becoming more serious. She gets his attention, leaving him to wonder what she's about to say. Nanaka confesses that Hiramu saved her back in middle school. He denies it, claiming he was the one who was in a bad place and was saved. She recalls a saying he once told her, something she cherishes deeply. A memory of them together in their middle school uniforms flashes by. She explains that his words, which he may not even remember, give her strength every day. Overcome with emotion, she moves closer, her face just inches from his. She admits that sometimes she can't see straight when it comes to him. Gazing deeply into his eyes, she makes a powerful declaration. For his sake, she can do anything. Their eyes lock, the air thick with tension. The two stand close, ready for the moment. They lean in for a kiss. But just as their lips are about to touch, a voice suddenly shouts, "I found you." A girl with long, dark hair suddenly leaps into Hiramu's arms, clinging to him tightly as Nanaka watches, frozen in shock. The mysterious girl smiles triumphantly in his arms. Hiramu looks utterly bewildered by the sudden embrace. Nanaka's expression is a mask of pure, stunned disbelief. Without warning, the new girl pulls the dazed Hiramu into a deep and forceful kiss. Nanaka's composure is completely shattered. She watches the scene unfold before her. Pulling away from the kiss, the girl turns her attention to Nanaka. With a defiant glare, she asks what Nanaka is looking at. She demands to know what Nanaka is doing walking around with Hiramu. Nanaka stares back, her face a blank canvas of shock, the previous moment's vulnerability replaced by a brewing storm. The newcomer's face twists in fury as she screams a direct threat at Nanaka, "I'm going to kill you." The girl's fury boils over as she confronts Nanaka, her voice dripping with menace. Nanaka can only stare back, her face a mask of shock. A terrified Hiramu looks on, completely overwhelmed by the sudden chaos. Her threat hangs heavy in the air, she is going to kill her. The world seems to warp around Hiramu as he struggles to process the scene. The girl, however, suddenly softens, her body language changing completely. She explains that it has been so long since she last saw Hiramu, and she was just overcome with excitement. Hiramu is left speechless, utterly confused by her rapid change in demeanor. Nanaka finally breaks her silence, demanding to know who this stranger is. The girl's eye widens, her smile vanishing completely. A slow, triumphant grin spreads across Nanaka's face. She watches with satisfaction as her rival's composure crumbles. The girl is left trembling, her confidence shattered. Overwhelmed, the girl begins to cry, her face a picture of distress. She calls Nanaka mean, her voice breaking with emotion. Hiramu, still caught in the middle, can only wonder what is happening. An unfamiliar emotion begins to stir within him. He recognizes the feeling as affection as the girl clings to him. She smiles contentedly, her face buried in his chest. Hiramu, however, stands frozen, his mind reeling in shock. Nanaka watches them, her expression turning dark and unreadable. Hiramu is confused. This is the same girl who was crying just yesterday, but now she's hugging him. Nanaka calls out his name, startling the flustered Hiramu. The girl pulls back slightly to apologize for her behavior the previous day. She explains that it's no wonder he doesn't remember her since they last met in elementary school. Suddenly, a big bang of realization occurs in Hiramu's brain. The memories come flooding back. Her name is Alice Kitagawa. She was his childhood friend who transferred away in elementary school. The name triggers a cascade of forgotten moments. As he struggles to process this, Alice asks if he remembers the promise they made. Stunned, Hiramu confirms that he does. Lost in the memory of their promise, Hiramu blurts out, "Let's get married." Alice's face lights up with pure joy at his words. But the words strike Nanaka with the force of a physical blow, leaving her utterly devastated. The weight of his words hits Hiramu as he sees Nanaka's horrified expression. She turns and runs, apologizing as she flees. He desperately shouts after her that it's not what she thinks. He tries to explain that the promise was from grade school. His mind flashes back to his younger self, finding a young Alice sitting alone. In the flashback, a young Hiramu finds Alice alone at the park and asks if she's by herself again. She tells him her mother is at the pachinko parlor again. When he asks about her father, she reveals he is with another woman. Despite her sad situation, her face lights up when he asks if she wants to play. She eagerly agrees, happy to have a friend. Later on the swings, Alice suddenly reveals she's moving the next day. She explains it's because her parents are separating. A shocked Hiramu listens as she laments that there's nothing a child can do. Then she looks at him earnestly and asks if he will marry her if they ever meet again in the future. A blushing young Hiramu agrees to her proposal. Soon after, he watched as Alice moved away. The event left him bitter, believing adults were selfish and didn't care about children. This bitterness fueled his decision to rebel against the adults. And that's how he grew up, laying the foundation for his Yankee era. The flashback ends, bringing Hiramu back to the present, where the teacher introduces Alice Kitagawa as a new transfer student. Alice stands before the class right in front of him. Nanaka stares at the newcomer, her expression unreadable. Hiramu is still trying to wrap his head around the impossible situation. Alice introduces herself with a polite smile, "It's nice to meet you." Later, Nanaka meets with an informant, a blonde, delinquent girl who addresses her as Your Highness. The girl confirms she found information on Alice. She calls her Black and sends the data to Nanaka's phone. Nanaka reviews the file, a small, thoughtful smile playing on her lips. She realizes the information will be quite useful. Armed with her new information, Nanaka cheerfully calls out to Alice after school. She asks for a moment of Alice's time. Alice recognizes her as the girl who was with Hiramu. She immediately becomes hostile, warning Nanaka not to dare flirt with him. Nanaka feigns innocence, insisting that she and Hiramu are just friends. Alice apologizes, admitting she gets worked up when it comes to Hiramu. Nanaka plays the part of a lonely new student without friends, asking Alice to be nice to her. Alice agrees that they should try to get along. Seeing her chance, Nanaka's demeanor shifts slightly. She mentions hearing a rumor, her tone turning pointed. Nanaka confronts Alice with the rumors she's heard, that her mother is a pachinko addict in major debt. She continues, adding that her father is a jerk with a DV problem. She smiles sweetly, suggesting it would be best for Alice to keep such things a secret, wondering what others would think if they knew. Alice is momentarily stunned into silence. After a moment, Alice calmly confirms that's how it is. Nanaka's confident smile remains, not yet realizing her plan has failed. To Nanaka's surprise, Alice states that she isn't hiding anything and that everybody already knows. She declares that it's the truth and she doesn't have to clean up after her parents. She doesn't care what anyone says about them. Her bold declaration leaves Nanaka utterly speechless. Nanaka's expression changes to one of genuine relief. She admits she was worried Alice would care about the rumors. She promises to protect her from anyone who might bully her over it. Alice is touched by this unexpected kindness. She declares that Nanaka is a good person after all and pulls her into a tight hug. Nanaka is completely taken aback by the sudden embrace. As Alice holds her, Nanaka's face is a picture of wide-eyed shock. Later that night, she meets with her informant again. Nanaka coolly greets the girl, who seems to have been waiting for her. She concludes that the information she received was ultimately not usable. Nanaka tells her informant to bring more useful information next time. When the girl asks about an envelope Nanaka is holding, Nanaka reveals it's her shoplifting data. She menacingly holds the letter, addressed to the school, over a mailbox. As the terrified girl begs, Nanaka tells her she'll have to work harder. The informant has no choice but to agree. A memory begins with her parents getting her attention as a young child. They impressed upon her a cynical view of the world, insisting that a college degree was her only path to success. Young Nanaka obediently agreed, trying to be the perfect daughter. But her older self scoffs at their reassurances, questioning the very foundation of what they taught her. In her mind, Nanaka scathingly refers to her parents as an idiot couple, her cheerful expression a chilling mask for her true feelings. At school, a couple of girls begin gossiping about a student named Hiramu, calling him weird. They mock his outdated Yankee style, wondering how he could have grown up that way. Nanaka interrupts, gently chiding them for being mean, which earns her a comment about being too kind. Her classmates dismiss her defense, convinced that a Yankee like him will never amount to anything. While maintaining her sweet demeanor, Nanaka silently admits to herself that she finds him attractive. With a serene smile, Nanaka turns to the gossiping girls and calmly states that they won't have a good life either. Her sharp retort leaves them completely stunned. From the nearby stairwell, Hiramu has overheard everything. Nanaka becomes flustered, realizing she was caught speaking her mind. Hiramu understands her plight, reflecting on the pressures of being an honor student. He admits that hiding one's true feelings is exhausting and that it's tempting to complain. He advises her that she needs to let things out sometimes to avoid bottling everything up. As he yawns, Nanaka looks at him, a thought beginning to form in her mind. She starts to believe that with him, she might be able to talk freely about her problems. She feels that it's okay to speak her mind around him. A montage of moments they share begins to play in her mind. Nanaka concludes that with this person, she can finally be herself, and that is why she has become so attached. Back in the present, Nanaka observes Alice clinging to Hiramu, inwardly calling her a bitch for bothering him. A flustered Hiramu awkwardly asks Alice for some personal space. Alice ignores his discomfort, cheerfully reminding him that they are supposed to get married. Hiramu tries to explain that the promise was from elementary school, but he's interrupted by Nanaka calling his name. Nanaka approaches and wishes Hiramu a good morning with a bright smile. She then quickly excuses herself and runs ahead toward the school. Alice watches her go, commenting to distracted Hiramu about how nice Nanaka is. Finally reaching his limit, Hiramu pushes Alice away, pleading for space. His sudden action leaves Alice in a state of shock. He quickly apologizes before turning to leave. Without another word, Hiramu breaks into a run, chasing after Nanaka. He races across the school grounds. He spots Nanaka down an alleyway. He shouts her name to get her attention. Catching his breath, he begins to stammer out an explanation. He apologizes, explaining that he was confused when Alice suddenly hugged him like that. He clarifies that the promise was made when they were just kids. He rambles that just because it was a childhood promise doesn't mean he isn't responsible, before catching himself. Nanaka tells him that his strong sense of responsibility is one of his defining traits. She adds that he doesn't belong to anyone and is free to choose who he marries. Hiramu quietly acknowledges her words, though he still seems troubled. With tears welling in her eyes, Nanaka puts on a heart-wrenching performance, telling Hiramu that she'll miss him. Her tears catch Hiramu completely off guard. Feeling responsible for her sadness, he apologizes profusely and embraces her. However, as he comforts her, Nanaka's inner voice makes a chilling promise to herself. Peeking over his shoulder, her face is a mask of terrifying determination as she vows to show no mercy. She resolves to do whatever it takes to make Hiramu hers, even if it means putting on an act. Her ultimate goal is to create a life where she no longer has to pretend. And to achieve that, she will first pretend to be someone she isn't. Gazing up at a towering skyscraper, Alice announces that seeing the building makes her feel like she's finally back home. Hiramu remarks that the building stands out too much, but a cheerful Alice is ready to get their day started. The scene flashes back to 1 week prior. At school, Alice had asked Hiramu to show her around the city plaza. She explained that it had been a while since she'd visited and wanted a tour. She playfully asked if this meant it was a date, which she wouldn't mind, leaving Hiramu flustered. Seizing the opportunity, Nanaka inserted herself into their conversation, declaring that she would come along for the tour too. The group arrives at a shrine with a long staircase. Alice exclaims how much she's missed this place. She turns to Hiramu, asking if he remembers their time here. She reminisces about how they used to race up the stairs, but Hiramu doesn't seem to recall. Alice gets upset that he's forgotten, recounting how she once cried because she could never win against him. Hiramu apologizes awkwardly. Nanaka watches their interaction, a subtle blush on her cheeks. They come across a traditional candy shop, a dagashiya. Alice is thrilled, remarking that the place brings back so many memories and that she's surprised it still exists. Inside, Nanaka spots a choo-choo juice and exclaims how much she misses it. Hiramu good-naturedly teases Nanaka about how to drink it, leaving her wondering if she said something wrong. As Hiramu and Nanaka share a light-hearted moment, Alice watches them with a serious expression. Alice calls out to Hiramu, her tone shifting the mood. Alice holds up a popsicle stick and asks Hiramu if he remembers. She specifies it's that popsicle stick. Hiramu is clearly confused by her question. Alice begins to explain her complicated home life, admitting her parents didn't care for her. She reveals that as a child, she would tell lies to get her classmates to leave her alone. In a flashback, a young Alice excitedly declares that she was right. She tells the other kids she won an ice cream. However, another girl immediately accuses her of lying again. The other children echo the sentiment, saying their own mothers claim Alice is a liar because of her parents. They crowd around her, demanding proof and leaving her speechless. A young Hiramu watches the scene unfold, wondering if she just got lucky. Young Hiramu steps in and demands Alice give him the popsicle stick. He looks determined as he takes action. Alice watches him, surprised by his intervention. Hiramu then turns to the shopkeeper and confidently asks for the ice cream he's won, shocking the other girls. The bullies are taken aback, whispering about how scary Hiramu is. After Hiramu's display, the other girls quickly switch sides, declaring their support for Alice. Finishing her story, Alice tells the present-day Hiramu that she knew he was defending her back then. Hiramu insists he doesn't remember it happening, but Alice dismisses his claim. She explains that because Hiramu was always there for her, it led to her developing deep feelings. Overcome with emotion, Alice struggles to confess the depth of her feelings for him. Hiramu clears his throat, breaking the tense, emotional silence. Alice is visibly flustered by the intensity of the moment. Nanaka watches them, her own expression unreadable but tinged with a blush. Suddenly, Alice declares she needs to use the bathroom and dashes away. As Hiramu starts to speak to Nanaka, she calls his name, capturing his full attention. Now alone with Hiramu, Nanaka looks at him with vulnerable, tear-filled eyes and quietly confesses, "I'm lonely." Nanaka explains to a blushing Hiramu that she and Alice have much in common. She punctuates her point by grabbing a fistful of his shirt. She tells him that she is going to make more memories. Memories with him, she states with determination. Nanaka and Hiramu stand close, both blushing deeply. Suddenly Alice returns, startling a now panicked Hiramu. She asks what they were discussing, and Hiramu frantically denies it was anything important, though Alice seems skeptical. Nanaka looks directly at her, calling her Alice-chan with a challenging gaze. Nanaka looks on with a determined smile, ready for the challenge. Alice glares back, her expression resolute as she declares she won't lose. A young woman runs frantically through the city at night. Panting for breath, she can't make sense of the situation she's found herself in. She wonders just what in the world is going on. A few days earlier, the same blonde girl reported to her master, Nanaka. When Nanaka asked if she'd found any new information on their target, the girl admitted her search was coming up empty. She explained that it was difficult to find anything, as the person in question had no social media presence. Nanaka mused that it was strange for someone she considered a jerk to have no internet footprint at all. Nanaka decided they needed to give their target a little nudge. With a coy smile, Nanaka tested her subordinate, asking why she thought she would want to do that. The blonde girl was confused, asking if Nanaka meant to just scare her. Nanaka let out a sigh of disappointment at her answer. Nanaka explained her philosophy, with a small nudge, dirt will fall from anyone. The blonde girl noted that she thought their target, Alice, was tough, but Nanaka was undeterred. She instructed her subordinate to go back in time and dig into Alice's past. Nanaka stressed that she should find something, no matter how trivial the detail. Leaning in close, Nanaka gave a chilling order to find the dirt on Alice. She explained that to bring down a dam, one must find a weak point, no matter how small the hole. The blonde girl recalled Nanaka's belief that everyone has dirt on them. However, Nanaka had declared herself the exception and sent her on her way. With her orders clear, the girl began her investigation at the source. She started with Alice Kitagawa's classmates from the elementary school she had transferred to. She continued her search through Alice's junior high. When she got to her high school years, the stories only became more confusing. Some claimed Alice transferred schools, even moving out of the prefecture. Others mentioned reasons like a sick grandpa or her dad's job. Another group suggested she had become a sponsored pro gamer. One person even heard she was apprenticing as a Rakugo storyteller. The rumors became more and more outlandish, from winning the lottery to being involved in a presidential election. The blonde girl was completely bewildered. It felt as if there were 1,000 different Alice Kitagawas, none of them with any real substance. Her mind raced with a terrible possibility. Suddenly, a voice called out from behind her, and she turned in shock to see the very person she was investigating. Alice Kitagawa stood before her, her expression cold and menacing as she addressed her. The blonde girl stared, speechless with shock. Alice confirmed she knew about the investigation, asking why she had been asking around about her. Alice calmly replied that she didn't get it. Flustered, the blonde girl stammered that she didn't understand the vast differences in the stories people told about Alice. Unfazed, Alice asked what it mattered to her. The girl blurted out that even if it meant nothing to her, it was important to her master. Alice's demeanor darkened at the mention of a master. The blonde girl pressed on, asking if everything Alice told her friends was a lie. Losing her composure, she yelled at Alice, calling her a liar. She accused her of fabricating stories about her mother being a pachinko addict and her father being abusive. She accused Alice of living under a false identity with a fabricated resume. She asked if Alice felt empty pretending to be someone she's not, with no real self to be found. She wondered why Alice was doing this in real life instead of on the internet. The blonde girl had a horrifying realization, wondering where Alice even got the idea. It couldn't be. To the girl's shock, Alice calmly and directly confessed that she had indeed lied about her parents. The blonde girl could only ask why. Alice explained that it made her popular, and more importantly, it helped with Hiramu. She had created the story of her life specifically to catch his eye. She stated it was the most effective way to get his attention. Alice declared that she doesn't care about the process, only the results. For 6 years, she had left Hiramu alone, a time when anyone could have won his affection. During that period, she tested every lie she could think of on other people, and now she knows what works. She doesn't need the truth. Leaning close to the terrified girl, Alice explained that she only needs the truth to keep herself from lying. She saw Nanaka as just a buzzing fly around Hiramu. She reminisced about breaking Nanaka's heart too. With no more tricks left for him, she felt confident. All that remained was a romantic comedy, and she was determined to win. Alice internally challenged her rival. Nanaka from afar shared the same sentiment, silently declaring that she won't lose. Alice smiled, ready for the battle. The blonde girl caught in the middle could only watch the chaos unfold. She wondered what was happening to this town. On the school rooftop, Seiya and Ku corner their friend Hiramu, asking him if he's had any luck with girls lately. Seiya needles him about getting along with girls other than Nanaka, like the new student, but Ku interjects that Alice is just his childhood friend. Playfully jealous, Seiya asks Hiramu who he likes more. He then pushes further, asking Hiramu to compare Nanaka and Alice based on their looks, but Hiramu objects, saying that is not how you judge a girl. Hiramu insists it's what's inside that counts, but Ku shrewdly points out that he already likes someone else, doesn't he? Ku holds up his phone, showing a picture of Shining Mizuki, the star of the idol group Nightmare, and asks Hiramu if this is the girl he likes. Ku explains to curious Seiya that while Mizuki's group isn't well known now, he predicts they will be huge in a few years. Seiya teases Hiramu about his taste in girls, but a blushing Hiramu clarifies that he simply admires her, and it is not what he's thinking. Hiramu passionately agrees with Ku, declaring that it is what is on the inside that makes you want to support them. Just as they were talking about his favorite idol, Hiramu is shocked to see a girl who looks identical to Shining Mizuki appear right in front of him, wondering if she is an angel. In that moment, a new battle began. In his daze, Hiramu notes with astonishment that she even has a piece of bread in her mouth, like a classic manga trope. They have a head-on collision, and the girl winces in pain. Hiramu, mortified, stammers out a frantic apology. The girl casually apologizes back, admitting she wasn't looking where she was going. She then calls him by his name, Hiramu-kun, much to his shock. The mysterious girl confirms she knows him, addressing him as Neidu Hiramu from Class 2C. Hiramu is completely baffled as to how she knows who he is. She smiles and introduces herself as Hanju Ryoko, a third-year student. As she waves goodbye, Hiramu's mind spins, wondering if Hanju Ryoko is actually Mizuki's real identity. Unseen by him, Alice watches the entire exchange from around a corner. Still in a daze, Hiramu is found by Seiya, who asks him what is wrong. Hiramu recalls hearing that Seiya sometimes hangs around the third-year classrooms. He asks Seiya if he knows a third-year named Hanju Ryoko, and Seiya confirms that he does, explaining that she's his neighbor. Hiramu stares at him in disbelief, confirming that they live close to one another. Hiramu explodes, grabbing Seiya and demanding to know why he kept this a secret. Hiramu shouts that he knows what Seiya is implying, but Seiya insists he has no idea what's going on. Hiramu presses him, asking if her identity is supposed to be a secret, but Seiya is just bewildered. Her subordinate confirms that Ryoko is indeed a third year. Watching from afar, Alice processes this new information, realizing she has miscalculated. She knew about Hiramu's idol but was unaware of a lookalike in their school. Alice observes that Hiramu isn't the kind of person who would just pick someone out of a crowd, but her subordinate points out that looks can still be a deciding factor in a relationship. The subordinate agrees that it's an important factor to consider. With a determined look, Alice decides that she is going to have to get involved in this situation. As Hiramu is walking home, Ryoko calls out to him. Ryoko approaches Hiramu with a smile, asking if he is heading home. Startled, Hiramu nearly calls her by the idol's name, Mizuki, before catching himself and saying Ryoko's name instead, much to her amusement. She tells him that she is also heading home. Hiramu awkwardly replies that it must be a coincidence. She stops him and apologizes, confessing that it was actually a lie. With a charming wink, Ryoko admits she was actually waiting for him because she wanted to see him. Her bold confession leaves Hiramu completely stunned and blushing. Just as this happens, Nanaka exits the school building, witnessing the intimate moment. Nanaka watches from afar as Hiramu and Ryoko walk away together. Enraged, she mutters under her breath and begins to charge after them. Suddenly, Alice appears, holding Nanaka back and putting a finger to her lips, shushing her. Alice calmly tells Nanaka that it is fine. She reassures Nanaka, telling her to just be quiet and that everything will be all right. Ryoko begins to explain herself, telling a confused Hiramu that she has been watching him ever since he attended her humanities class. She confesses that when she first saw him, she felt an electric shock, something she had never experienced before. She thought he was so cool that she began watching him in secret, trying not to get caught. Meanwhile, Alice watches them, thinking to herself that there's no way Ryoko could hide from her surveillance. Alice reflects on how popular Hiramu is, always surrounded by cute girls. Ryoko admits that she was jealous and desperately wanted to be a girl that Hiramu would like. Hiramu, taken aback, says that sort of thing is a bit much. Alice remembers the moment she discovered that Hiramu had a favorite idol. She recalls feeling so happy about this discovery. Alice thinks back to seeing Hiramu with another girl and thinking she finally had a chance with him too. Hiramu, completely lost, asks her how she did it. Ryoko nonchalantly reveals her secret. She got plastic surgery, stating that it is no big deal. Hiramu stares at her, a look of disbelief on his face. She touches her face, explaining that it was a complete plastic surgery. Hiramu can only stammer in confusion. She spreads her arms wide, announcing that Hanju Ryoko has been reborn with a new look just for Hiramu. She strikes a pose, declaring that she now has the same look as his favorite idol. Hiramu's mind breaks, unable to comprehend what she means. Smiling brightly, Ryoko gives him the simple reason for her extreme transformation: because she likes him. She looks at him with adoration and confesses, "I like you, Hiramu-kun." Hiramu is left completely stunned by the confession. Watching from the sidelines, Alice and Nanaka observe the shocking scene. Ryoko calmly explains that her new appearance is all thanks to plastic surgery. For Hiramu, the battle had just begun. She nonchalantly dismisses it as not a big deal. She confesses that she decided to get a full facelift because she likes Hiramu. As Hiramu and Ryoko walk home, they are watched from the shadows. Nanaka and Alice observe the pair from a distance. Hiramu stammers, trying to get Ryoko's attention. He admits he does not understand what is happening and just wants to go home for the day. Ryoko cheerfully agrees to his request. That night, Hiramu lies awake in his room, his mind racing. He cannot believe Ryoko underwent a full facelift just for him, all because he liked an idol. He is unsettled by how easily she agreed to let him go home, feeling she went to so much trouble for him. He drifts off into a troubled sleep. The next morning, he arrives at school. His friend Seiya notices his drained appearance and asks what is wrong. A sleep-deprived Hiramu explains he could not sleep last night. Seiya presses him, asking about the unknown girl he saw Hiramu with the previous day. Seiya internally realizes that Hiramu has no idea the girl was a reborn Ryoko Hanju. Too tired to explain, Hiramu tells Seiya he is going to the infirmary to get some sleep. When Hiramu opens the door to the infirmary, he is shocked to find Ryoko already there, waiting for him. His eyes widen in disbelief and dread. Ryoko looks back at him with a calm, knowing expression. The thought echoes in his mind, she is here. Hiramu asks what she wants, and Ryoko reminds him that she already told him yesterday. She states clearly that she wants to be by his side because she likes him. He protests that her feelings do not mean she has to follow him everywhere. She counters with twisted logic, arguing that what was supposed to happen today will just happen tomorrow if he delays it. She concludes that there is no point in him trying to go home. A stammering Hiramu begins to ask if her behavior doesn't sound like stalking. Ryoko calmly refutes this, claiming she only knows his whereabouts because she likes him. She launches into a bizarre philosophical argument, stating that today's her and tomorrow's her are different people, so it is impossible to prove that the person loving him tomorrow is the same one loving him today. She concludes her strange rant by saying she will just be reborn again the next day. Hiramu's mind reels, he does not get it at all. He insists her logic makes no sense, but she asks if it does not. She asks what he wants, reminding him that her new body was made just for him. She rationalizes that this body was made for him, so this is what they must do. Ryoko declares that since they are going out, they have to act on it. Before Hiramu can react, she grabs his arm. She forcefully throws him onto one of the infirmary beds. Pinned beneath her, Hiramu can only look up in shock as Ryoko looms over him, asking for his confirmation. She tells him that her body is all his and that he can be with her. Seeing his exhaustion, she leans in close and whispers that they should get comfortable. Other students in the infirmary begin to notice the commotion, wondering what is happening. Elsewhere, Nanaka asks Seiya if he has seen Hiramu. Seiya tells her that a tired-looking Hiramu went to the infirmary. At that moment, a dreadful thought flashes through Nanaka's mind. She realizes with sudden panic that the infirmary is where the trouble is. She has a terrible feeling that something is going to happen there. She knows she has to hurry. She gazes at him intently, speaking of her offer in this age of luxury. Hiramu sweats, horrified by her proposition of getting her for 0 yen a month. She declares that everything she is and owns is now his. Her tempting question hangs in the air. With a blush, she warns him not to get too carried away. Leaning over him, she softly suggests they be friends. Now straddling the pinned Hiramu, she demands he give her everything. Nanaka starts running, her thoughts fixed on the infirmary. She feels a growing sense of unease about what might be happening there. Her eyes widen with the sudden realization that something bad is going to happen. Convinced something is wrong, she dashes down the school corridor. Suddenly, someone steps into her path, telling her she can go no further. Sanada stands calmly in the hallway, forbidding her from passing. Nanaka looks at him in surprised recognition. She identifies the boy as Sanada-kun, a friend of Hiramu. Sanada seems impressed that she knows his name, calling himself a mere mob character. He then hints at the strange situation, mentioning that a girl who has had a full facelift is not someone to be taken lightly. Nanaka confronts Sanada, demanding to know who he really is. He calmly reveals he is the gardener for the Honjo family and is acting on orders from Lady Ryoko. Sanada admits that he has been keeping an eye on Hiramu. Nanaka is stunned, unable to believe what she is hearing. She realizes she has to get to Hiramu immediately. Sanada simply states that letting her through would not be fair. Sanada looks down at her, saying he assumed she already knew. Nanaka's eyes are wide with shock and confusion. She asks what he's talking about, trying to understand the situation. Her thoughts race as she focuses on his glasses, realizing she cannot see his eyes. A new person arrives, and Sanada respectfully addresses them as Your Highness. A new girl with long blonde hair and a white cardigan appears, looking determined. She confidently announces that she has got this. Sanada simply says, okay. With the two distracted, Nanaka starts running past them. The girl aggressively tells Sanada not to bother Her Highness. Sanada calmly takes a stance, stating that a dog must obey its master's orders. She flies at him in a rage, yelling for him to move. The fight begins, with Sanada delivering a powerful kick as she attempts to punch him. Sanada smoothly steps aside and strikes her. The blow connects with a thud, sending her reeling as she cries out. Sanada looks shocked, as if he did not mean to hit her so hard. He leaps back in surprise at the force of his own attack. She looks back in shock and anger. She furiously accuses him of trying to escape their fight. She demands he stop being a coward and face her properly. However, her anger gives way to a flustered, teary-eyed expression, as she insists this is not what she wanted. Sanada denies that he was trying to flee. Sanada calmly explains his action, saying she just smelled really good. The girl is left blushing and utterly confused by his words. Meanwhile, Nanaka pants heavily outside the infirmary door. She throws the door open, shouting for Hiramu, believing she has arrived just in time. Nanaka enters to find Hiramu unconscious, his head resting in the lap of an unknown girl with long black hair. She can only stare, her mind blank with shock. The mysterious girl looks at Nanaka with a slight, confident smile. Nanaka hesitantly begins to ask about Ryoko Hanjo. The girl interrupts, explaining that the person she seeks has already fled by jumping out the window. Stroking Hiramu's hair, she remarks that he is out cold and that she saved him just in time, telling Nanaka she was too late. With a triumphant, almost sinister smile, the girl declares that she saved Hiramu. Nanaka's face is a mask of pure horror and confusion. In a quiet cemetery, a girl in a school uniform stands before a grave, her hands clasped in prayer. After a moment of silence, she murmurs her goodbyes and turns away with a determined expression. Later at school, she finds Hiramu, greeting him by name. Hiramu is taken aback as the girl asks if he remembers her. She probes further, specifically mentioning the thing. When he responds with confusion, she simply giggles. She dismisses it as nothing and walks away, leaving him stunned. From a distance, Nanaka watches the interaction unfold. His friend with glasses asks how certain memories can be, while Hiramu questions what he is on about. He admits to them that he feels uncertain about his own memory. Sanada asks if he is just forgetting mundane things, but Hiramu clarifies that it is not that simple. He reveals the source of his confusion: it is about a person's face. At a shrine, Hiramu confesses to his friends that Hanju Ryoko's face seems different from the one he remembers. His glasses-wearing friend tries to brush it off as a common occurrence, but Hiramu insists it is not. Sanada, trying to understand, asks Hiramu if he has ever experienced something like having his memory completely wiped. A memory surfaces of the girl mentioning a race up a long flight of stairs. Back in the present, Hiramu hesitantly admits he might have experienced memory loss. Sanada becomes comically outraged, scolding Hiramu for being awful enough to forget memories he made with a girl. Meanwhile, the blonde girl apologizes profusely to Nanaka, Her Highness, for her blunder. She laments being caught off guard by the woman named Alice Kitagawa. Nanaka calmly tells her it is a small matter, explaining that Alice's achievement was merely a small victory. She stresses that they must focus on the bigger picture. On a rooftop, Nanaka explains that to achieve a greater victory, they must be willing to give up smaller ones. She turns to her subordinate, telling the girl she will need her help to achieve their goal. Leaning in close, she asks if she can count on her, leaving the girl flustered and blushing. Later, while walking with Hiramu, Nanaka observes him eating an ice cream bar and notes his fondness for it. Hiramu agrees, saying most people like ice cream, which Nanaka playfully points out is his own assumption. Nanaka then steers the conversation, reminding him that Alice had talked about winning ice cream the other day. Nanaka wistfully remarks how nice it must be for Alice to have so many memories with Hiramu. Her comment makes him visibly uncomfortable. He starts to say something, admitting it might make him sound like a jerk. He then tries to back out, but Nanaka encourages him to talk to her. He finally relents, ready to confess. Hiramu looks at Nanaka and admits plainly that he cannot remember. Nanaka simply stares back, her expression unreadable. He confesses that he has no memory of racing upstairs or anything about Alice's ice cream. He braces himself for her judgment, believing she must think he is a horrible person, but she reassures him that is not the case. Nanaka smiles brightly, telling Hiramu she does not think that at all and that it is normal to forget things. He mentions his recent memory uncertainty and the lapse in the infirmary. She then suggests a simple solution: if he has forgotten, they can just make new memories. Hiramu agrees, but a flicker of doubt remains as he considers her words. Leaning in with a cheerful smile, Nanaka offers a startling alternative. She suggests that perhaps Alice could have been making up all those memories. The idea leaves Hiramu completely stunned. Nanaka quickly laughs it off as a joke, and Hiramu nervously plays along. He agrees that Alice is not the type of person to make things up. However, as they stand together on the school rooftop, Hiramu admits he is curious about the reality of Alice Kitagawa, and Nanaka quietly agrees. Elsewhere, Nanaka's blonde subordinate voices her own doubts to Hiramu's glasses-wearing friend, admitting she doesn't know what's true about that woman. She even wonders if a woman named Alice Kitagawa even exists. He reveals that he was also curious and looked up Alice Kitagawa on his phone. He offers to send her what he found, but trails off, realizing he doesn't know her contact information. With a sly expression, he asks for her contact information. The blonde girl, caught off guard and blushing, shyly agrees. The scene shifts back to the cemetery, where the mysterious dark-haired girl stands before the grave once more. She speaks to the stone, stating that today is the anniversary of its death. The camera focuses on the grave marker, revealing the name Kitagawa family grave. The girl looks at the inscription, whispering the name Alice-chan, confirming the identity of the deceased and deepening the mystery surrounding her own. The girl thanks Hiramu for accompanying her to this mysterious place. He tells her it is no problem, but admits he does not know where they are. She looks away with a somber expression, preparing to tell him where they have come. Hiramu's expression shifts from confusion to shock as he processes what he is seeing. Before him stands the Kitagawa family grave, a sight he cannot comprehend. The friend explains that he heard from old classmates that Alice had changed drastically. He specifies that this was about Alice Kitagawa from their elementary school days. Nanaka is shocked to hear that the Alice of today is considered a completely different person. She struggles to understand how such a thing could be possible. He adds that he is also aware of another girl who went to extreme lengths, even getting plastic surgery for Hiramu. Nanaka is baffled, questioning what it is about Hiramu that drives girls to such measures. He then draws her attention to her chat profile picture, which is of a fig. He bashfully admits that figs are his favorite fruit too. The mutual interest leaves Nanaka flustered and blushing. The scene shifts to a playground, the setting of a long-forgotten memory. A young girl calls out to her friend, Alice. She notices that Alice is barefoot and asks what happened to her shoes. Alice explains she fled her home because her mom's boyfriend was acting up again. Her friend asks if she is okay and if her feet hurt, to which Alice admits they do a little. Despite the pain, Alice smiles brightly, saying she is fine because she has her friend and Hiramu. Alice hesitantly brings up a hypothetical scenario. She asks what would happen if she were to die. With a smile, she asks her friend to promise to take her place as Hiramu's wife. Her friend is left speechless as Alice insists she is the only one she can entrust with this request. Alice explains that her friend and Hiramu are the only ones who were ever kind to her. She tearfully calls the girl her one and only friend. Her friend can only stare back, stunned by Alice's emotional plea. Her eyes snap open. She sits up at her desk, having dozed off in class. Walking down the hall, she dismisses the memory as a dream from the past. Suddenly, a voice calls out to her, stopping her in her tracks. Nanaka stands before her with an aggressive posture, calling out to her. The girl asks what Nanaka wants, and Nanaka tells her to look at something. Her expression turns to one of pure shock as she sees the photo on Nanaka's phone. The image on the phone is the Kitagawa family grave. Nanaka holds up the phone, demanding to know whose grave it is. She tells the girl to be straight with her. The girl begins her explanation, starting with her time in elementary school. She begins by talking about a girl named Alice Kitagawa. She describes Alice as having a weak stomach, which made things difficult for her parents. Alice had no friends besides her and Hiramu. She amends her statement, clarifying that since Alice was in love with Hiramu, she was Alice's only true friend. She continues her story, stating that Alice got sick one day and died. She claims that as Alice was dying, she asked her to become Hiramu's wife in her place. She was told to live on as Alice Kitagawa. Nanaka calls her an idiot, refusing to believe such a lie. As Nanaka declares that her deception is over, the girl simply says no. With a chillingly wide-eyed stare, the girl admits that she used to have that fantasy. Nanaka is left completely speechless. The girl smiles, admitting she still dreams of that story. She presents her bank book as proof of something. She shows the deposits from her monthly stipend and a New Year's gift. She then points to a large withdrawal of 900,000 yen that was just taken out. She explains that the withdrawn money was used to buy the grave. Nanaka's face contorts in horror at the revelation. She stammers, unable to comprehend what she is hearing. The girl smiles, stating her goal is to get her hands on Hiramu. She reveals her plan to use this fabricated story to win over Hiramu. She takes full credit for the elaborate lie, claiming it was a story she starred in, directed, and wrote herself. She looks at Nanaka's terrified face and says she likes that expression. She leans in and warns Nanaka not to tell anyone about what she has learned. She ominously asks if Nanaka wants to get into an accident, leaving no doubt about her intentions. Nanaka calls out to her, but the girl simply walks away. The scene flashes back to the beginning, with Hiramu noting the sad atmosphere of the cemetery. The girl puts on a sorrowful act for Hiramu's benefit. Meanwhile, a terrified Nanaka watches them from a distance, now aware of the dangerous game being played. Recalling the chilling confession, Nanaka remembers Alice's sinister words. Alice admitted to having these dark fantasies. She even revealed she bought the grave with her own savings, leaving Nanaka horrified. The memory leaves Nanaka with a single dreadful thought: if this continues, something terrible will happen. Consumed by fear, Nanaka realizes she has to do something before the situation with Her Highness becomes irreversible. The battle has begun. As Nanaka stands outside the school, the short-haired girl calls out, addressing her as Your Highness. Nanaka approaches, stating she needs to talk about Alice Kitagawa. Frustrated, Nanaka demands to know why the girl is leading her on, her voice rising in panic as she worries what will happen if things continue as they are. The girl simply asks, then what? Nanaka worries that if things stay the same, she will lose. Flustered, she stammers that her outburst wasn't what she meant. The short-haired girl tells her to listen, acknowledging her impatience but insisting that now is not the time. She is determined not to miss her chance. Despite the warning, Nanaka feels she must do something for the sake of Her Highness. Steeling her resolve, she decides to act. She strides down the hall and calls out to Hiramu. She asks if he has a minute. On a walkway, Hiramu notes that it's been a while since she last spoke to him and asks what's wrong. Taking a deep breath, Nanaka prepares to get straight to the point. She delivers a stark warning: don't trust Alice Kitagawa. Hiramu is taken aback by the sudden accusation. Nanaka presses on, trying to explain the situation. She insists that Alice's entire life, her history and background, is nothing but lies. She even mentions the grave Alice bought. Confused and dismissive, Hiramu asks what she's talking about and begins to walk away, prompting a desperate Nanaka to call after him. Nanaka desperately pleads with him, telling him it's the truth. She asks why he won't believe her as he walks away. She wonders aloud if it's because of her reputation as a Yankee gal. Hiramu stops and turns, quietly telling her that's not it, clarifying that it's not that he doesn't believe her. Looking her in the eye, Hiramu explains his reasoning: he simply has no reason to doubt Alice. His words leave Nanaka stunned and speechless. At that exact moment, Alice appears at the end of the walkway. As Nanaka watches in horror, Alice approaches them. She looks fragile and calls out Hiramu's name with a slight tremor in her voice. With tears welling in her eyes, a radiant smile spreads across her face as she tells him how happy she is. Alice throws her arms around Hiramu, thanking him for believing in her. A shocked Nanaka looks on. Still in his embrace, Alice then asks him not to think badly of Mika. She claims Nanaka is probably just going through something difficult. Peeking over Hiramu's shoulder, Alice's expression transforms into a terrifying glare as she sweetly asks him to forgive Nanaka for her. Nanaka is frozen in horror. She watches in utter disbelief as Hiramu, completely oblivious, agrees to Alice's request. From a distance, the short-haired girl observes the entire exchange, her face shadowed and her expression unreadable. Nanaka is left completely and utterly defeated, her face a mask of pure terror. Meanwhile, another student with reddish hair watches the scene unfold from behind a pillar. She finds the situation interesting. She muses that the pieces have fallen into place and that she's starting to want to be a part of it all. As Hiramu's friend cheerfully suggests they get lunch, he calls out to Hiramu. The first to approach is the short-haired girl, who brightly asks if he wants to eat with her. She's immediately followed by Nanaka, who also asks Hiramu to have lunch together. Finally, Alice joins the fray, sweetly offering to share her lunch with him as well. The siege on Hiramu is complete, surrounded in the classroom by the girls vying for his attention, and with his friends watching from the side, the battle for lunchtime has officially begun. The group settles on the school rooftop for their meal. Hiramu's friend, oblivious to the tension, exclaims how much fun he's having. His cheerful mood is a stark contrast to the silent, intense glares exchanged between Alice, Nanaka, and the short-haired girl. Unseen by the others, the glasses-wearing friend discreetly unscrews the cap on his friend's drink. The prank works perfectly, and the blonde friend's tea spills all over him. Hiramu and his friend can only watch the chaos unfold. Nanaka kindly offers to buy him a new drink. He quickly insists it's fine, claiming he didn't really like tea anyway. Alice watches the scene with a dark, satisfied smirk. Seizing the opportunity, the glasses-wearing friend grabs his flustered companion and drags him away, much to his surprise. Now that his friends are gone, Hiramu is left alone with the girls. The atmosphere immediately becomes menacing as the three girls surround him. Hiramu, caught in the middle, feels the intense pressure building. The short-haired girl tries to break the ice, saying she'd love to have a meal with everyone. Alice immediately shuts her down, stating her preference to eat alone with Hiramu. Not to be outdone, Nanaka quickly chimes in, declaring that she also wants to be alone with him. Alice turns on Nanaka, accusing her of lying. The short-haired girl questions the accusation. Alice doubles down with a sweet smile, insisting that at least she isn't lying about her past. The cryptic jab hangs in the air, leaving Hiramu completely bewildered. He senses that something big is about to unfold. The menacing atmosphere intensifies as Hiramu realizes something big is developing. Hiramu is stunned by the sudden outburst. Alice dramatically accuses Nanaka of being mean for bringing up plastic surgery during their very first conversation. Nanaka can only stare, shocked to see her crying. Fed up with the act, Nanaka tells her to stop, calling her a pain. The escalating drama is clearly too much for Hiramu. Through her crocodile tears, Alice taunts Nanaka, saying that if it were anyone else, they'd be crying for real. The short-haired girl interjects, noting that since Ryoko is their senpai, she's sure she wouldn't cry over something so trivial. Hiramu is shocked that even Nanaka was drawn into the argument. Alice quickly changes her tune, turning her attention back to Hiramu. She then presents an impressively large, multi-tiered bento box, leaving Hiramu utterly amazed. The bento boxes are opened to reveal a stunningly beautiful and elaborate meal. Hiramu is blown away by how beautiful the food is. The short-haired girl is also in awe of the presentation. Alice scoffs at their reaction, calling them peasants for finding it beautiful. With a smug smile, she offers Hiramu the first bite. Caught in the incredibly tense situation, Hiramu finds he can't even taste the food. He lies, saying it's delicious, much to Alice's relief. Nanaka pulls out a bag of korok, reminding Hiramu of the ham cutlets they used to love from a shop near the shrine. She excitedly suggests they eat them together, trying to win him over with a shared, fond memory. Hiramu's eyes light up as he remembers the ham cutlets. Alice immediately undermines Nanaka's effort, coldly stating that the taste isn't the same anymore. As Nanaka looks on, stunned by Alice's move, Hiramu quickly backtracks, saying it's still delicious, while Nanaka quietly accepts defeat. The short-haired girl then turns to Hiramu, ready to present her own offering. The short-haired girl reveals her lunch, simple, store-bought egg noodles, explaining that she knows they're his favorite. While Alice scoffs at the plebeian food, Hiramu is overjoyed. He immediately digs in with enthusiasm. The short-haired girl smiles, knowing it's a flavor he's loved since middle school. She fondly recalls her time with Hiramu in the past. She explains that he was never someone who would just appear or disappear randomly. He was a constant, steady presence who simply stayed with her, and she tells him that's what she finds so great about him. Touched by her words, Hiramu happily agrees while enjoying the noodles. Alice and Nanaka can only watch, their expressions a mixture of anger and jealousy. From a distance, Hiramu's friends observe the scene, remarking on his surprising popularity. After a tense lunch, Hiramu finishes his meal, thanking everyone for the food. His friend arrives, shocked that Hiramu has already eaten without him. Hiramu can only offer a weak confirmation, and his friend realizes he's been left out. A memory surfaces of Ryoko's fun suggestion for everyone to walk home together after school. It was at that moment the next battle truly began. The school bell rings, signaling the end of the day. The group of 6 walks home together. Hiramu finds himself uncomfortably situated between Alice, Nanaka, and Ryoko, who exude a menacing energy. Meanwhile, his friend walks with his hands behind his head, thinking how much fun it is to go home with everyone. Sanada dryly notes his friend's oblivious nature. Another friend thinks to himself that the blonde has a few screws loose. The blonde friend loudly proclaims that while this is fun, it's not enough. Changing the subject, Ryoko turns her attention to the rest of the group. She leans in towards Hiramu, telling him she's still waiting to hear from him. She reminds him of her past offer, noting that she hasn't heard back from him since. Ryoko leans in close, asking Hiramu for his response. A flustered Hiramu tries to apologize and back away. Alice suddenly declares that Hiramu is going to marry her. She looks to a shocked Hiramu and asks if she's right. Hiramu tries to weakly protest Alice's claim. Nanaka immediately questions the idea of a promise made back in elementary school. She argues that a promise made when they were too young to understand love shouldn't hold true today. Alice is left struggling for a response. Nanaka gently suggests that Alice might be remembering things incorrectly. She quickly apologizes for her forwardness. She clarifies to an unamused Alice that she's not calling her a liar. Sanada reflects on his life as a secret agent for the Honjo family since childhood. He recalls his harsh training and apologizes to Hiramu in his thoughts for what he's had to do. The weight of his involvement in the kidnapping becomes too much to bear. Overwhelmed, he pulls out his phone and taps out a message, deciding he needs help. Mika's friends invite her to go to karaoke, but she seems distracted. She politely declines, saying she has something to do. Her friends express concern, noting that she hasn't been hanging out with them much lately. Walking alone, Mika thinks about something she's learned recently. She used to believe that living for another person was a worthless endeavor. But now her perspective has changed. All she wants to see is that special person's smile. Her friends are left confused by her sudden change in demeanor. She turns back to them with a smile, hoping they'll be lucky enough to find the same happiness one day. Suddenly, her phone buzzes, startling her. She looks down to see a desperate message from Sanada. Nanaka watches Alice, a thoughtful expression on her face. Alice confronts Nanaka directly, asking if she is lying. With a sharp gaze, Alice states that she just doesn't believe Nanaka is telling the truth. Nearby, Sanada clutches his stomach, as if in pain. Sanada's eyes widen in alarm. He spots Mika across the street, looking dazed. She runs into the street without looking. Distracted, she stumbles and begins to fall. Sanada springs into action, grabbing her and shouting for her to be careful. He catches her and they share an intense, blushing gaze. The moment feels suspended in time, filled with a soft light. Alice, Nanaka, and Ryoko are frozen, watching the unexpected scene. Their eyes reflect the brilliant, dazzling light emanating from the pair. The three rivals are utterly captivated. In their eyes, the sight of Sanada and Mika together is nothing short of dazzling. The romantic moment between Sanada and Mika seems to shine with its own light. The other girls realize that right now, they are just in the way. They are completely mesmerized by the scene before them. Overwhelmed by the sheer radiance of the moment, Alice, Nanaka, and Ryoko instinctively shield their eyes, finding the scene almost too blinding to watch. Moved by the moment, Ryoko proposes a truce. Nanaka and Alice, still emotional, agree to the temporary ceasefire. At least for today, the battle is over. As they walk away, the three girls silently resolve to be extra nice to someone when they get home. Meanwhile, Hiramu is still dealing with his friend's antics, his own troubles far from over. An unseen observer wonders about the source of Hiramu's popularity. Mika tells Sawyer that she thinks she knows the reason, while Sawyer agrees that Hiramu's good looks and personality are undeniable. Mika reflects that there is something beyond his normal qualities at work, calling his powers extraordinary. Sawyer considers Hiramu's ability to gather so many love interests in one place. He concludes that this unique talent is simply abnormal. The battle for Hiramu's affection continues, centered around this extraordinary young man who seems to be a magnet for romantic conflict. Sana-kun loudly declares his love for Hiramu. His outburst catches the attention of Alice and Sawyer. He explains to them that he and Hiramu have been close friends since junior high. Sawyer internally frets over his friend's inability to read the atmosphere. Sana-kun continues, explaining that because he was an outsider, Hiramu was his only real friend. His heartfelt speech is met by Alice's own determined declaration of love for Hiramu. Sawyer internally panics, realizing his friend is talking too much. He worries that Alice will see Sana-kun as another rival if he doesn't stop. Alice suddenly calls out Sawyer's name, startling him. She then turns her attention to Sana-kun, asking if he's been to Hiramu's house. Sana-kun sheepishly admits that he has not. Alice calmly processes this new information. On the rooftop, Alice asks Mika if she wants to find out where Hiramu lives. Mika confirms her interest, but Alice clarifies that it's not that simple. Mika explains that she knows the basic details about his life. However, she tells Alice that something doesn't feel right about the situation. Sensing an opportunity, Alice tells Mika to go check it out, and Mika agrees. Alice thinks back to the brilliant light she witnessed earlier. Mika also recalls the light, thinking it was very pretty. She blushes slightly at the memory. Stealing her resolve, Mika dedicates her mission to Her Highness. Mika resolves to follow Hiramu after school. She hides, ready to see what she can find out. She believes this is the perfect opportunity to discover Hiramu's true motives while his friends are separated from him. She vows not to waste the chance that Sona-kun has given her. As she watches him, she wonders what his plans are for the day. Suddenly, a girl with black pigtails appears and cheerfully links arms with a stunned Hiramu. Mika, still hiding, watches the unexpected development. Mika watches in shock. Hiramu is completely caught off guard by the sudden encounter. The new girl smiles at him brightly. Hiramu can only react with a confused "eh." The new girl looks up at Hiramu, who asks who she is. Mika can't believe it, wondering if this is yet another rival. The memory of Sawyer's words about Hiramu's strange ability to gather so many shura comes flooding back to her. Meanwhile, the new girl privately wonders what kind of person Hiramu will turn out to be. Mika steels herself, vowing to see this through for her highness. The two of them head into a nearby cafe. They sit together at a table smiling. The girl joyfully eats a piece of cake. She then offers a bite to a flustered Hiramu, who accepts. Mika watches the scene unfold with a look of pure shock. From her vantage point, Mika frets that the situation is bad for her highness. She is horrified to see that everything appears to be completely normal. Her panic grows as she concludes that the new girl must not be normal either. The fact that Hiramu is on a normal date is what alarms her the most. Mika looks on in shock, crying out for her highness in her thoughts. The battle for Hiramu's affection has truly begun. The new girl, Nanaka, smiles brightly at the center of the conflict. Mika watches the seemingly perfect date from afar, convinced that this is a disastrous turn of events. Ryoko stares into the darkness, her mind reeling from what she's just witnessed. She stammers to herself, unable to accept the reality of the situation. The image of Hiramu with another girl replays in her mind, causing her immense distress. She finally lets out a desperate scream, shaking the fence in frustration. Mika watches her distraught highness with worried eyes. Mika remarks on how upset her highness is. She thinks about the person who could cause Ryoko so much pain. With a look of intense determination, Mika vows to never forgive them. Mika turns to Ryoko and confidently tells her to leave everything to her. Mika passionately swears to defeat the unlucky soul who has brought torment upon her highness. Ryoko addresses Mika simply as woman, acknowledging her loyalty. Mika declares that all she wants is to see Ryoko smile. With her mission set, Mika runs off to confront the new rival. Ryoko watches her leave, a subtle smile playing on her lips. Mika questions Alice about the girl with black hair and twin tails. Alice confirms she knows who Mika is talking about, calling her Tandopo-chan, prompting Mika to press for more information. Alice asks if Mika knows her, and Mika confirms, wanting to know more. Alice questions if Nanaka-chan has spoken to Mika yet. She condescendingly calls Mika a dog who is being used again, causing Mika to snap. Mika furiously defends her bond with her highness, screaming that Alice knows nothing about her. Regretting her decision to seek help, Mika turns and runs away. Alice watches Mika leave, coolly calling her a bad person for her dedication to your highness. Peeking from around a corner, Mika decides she has to investigate on her own. She spots Hiramu and begins to follow him, determined to uncover the truth. Nanaka suddenly appears next to a shocked Mika, holding up 3 fingers. The two girls stand together, Mika still reeling from the surprise. Nanaka declares that Mika's score is 3 points. Mika stumbles back in shock, utterly confused. Mika demands to know what the score means, but Nanaka just repeats that it is 3. With a bright smile, Nanaka explains that it is her human performance deviation score. Mika stares in disbelief, unable to comprehend the situation. Mika demands to know what Nanaka is, who calmly begins her evaluation by pointing out Mika's stalking. Nanaka continues, adding that Mika is a delinquent. She also notes that Mika's academic performance is poor. Mika tries to cut her off, but it's no use. Nanaka looks down on Mika, stating that considering all her faults, a score of 3 should be sufficient. Furious, Mika yells at Nanaka, calling her a bitch. Nanaka assigns Ryoko a score of 60. She then assigns a score of 55 to Alice. Nanaka excitedly declares a new score of 70. Mika is stunned by the sudden change. Nanaka praises Alice's beautiful features and strong personality. She declares that Alice Kitagawa is the clear winner in the competition for Hiramu's affection. Mika can only grunt in defeat. Suddenly, Ryoko appears and screams at Nanaka. Alice is taken aback by the sudden turn of events. Hiramu arrives and casually greets Nanaka as his older sister, Tanpopo-nichan. Ryoko joyfully greets Nanaka, calling her Nisan. Alice looks on, confused by the revelation that the two are sisters. Hiramu realizes Nanaka was with Mika, and Nanaka confirms Mika's identity. Nanaka thanks Mika for returning her phone, clearing up their earlier encounter. Ryoko and Nanaka have a friendly reunion. Nanaka whispers to Alice that she is supporting her efforts to win Hiramu's heart. Alice confidently replies that she is aware of Nanaka's support. Ryoko smugly asks Nanaka what her support for Alice has to do with her. Mika looks on in utter disbelief as the pieces fall into place. She grabs Hiramu's attention. Mika exclaims that she had no idea he had a sister. Hiramu cheerfully admits that he has 3 more sisters, much to Mika's shock. As they walk, Mika calls out to Ryoko. Mika furiously asks Ryoko if she knew about this all along, and Ryoko nonchalantly confirms it. Ryoko explains that she did it because Mika was so sweet and earnest in her devotion. She confesses with a charming smile that she just wanted to play a small prank. Mika is momentarily stunned by Ryoko's confession. Her expression softens into a wry smile. Ryoko cheerfully asks Mika to play again, while Mika laughs along. Mika asks why Nanaka was acting so strangely. Ryoko explains that Nanaka believes she is a hermit. Overwhelmed by the absurdity of it all, Mika pleads for a normal girl to enter the fray. Mika is stunned to learn that the girl she was investigating is Hiramu's sister. Meanwhile, Hiramu cheerfully announces that he actually has 3 more sisters, marking the beginning of a new battle. After school, a girl named Ren is approached by her classmates. They invite her to go shopping, but Ren politely declines, saying she has errands to run. As she walks away, her classmates comment on how she never hangs out with them. Ren's errand turns out to be a trip to the local arcade. She is intensely focused on a fighting game. On the other side of the machine, Hiramu celebrates his victory over his opponent. Ren sighs defeated. She knew it was him, her secret competitor, all along. Hiramu casually greets Ren, who knew it was him. He offers her a drink and they sit together. Ren asks how he knew it was her, and he replies that she's the only one who can keep up with his gaming skills. She reminisces about how they used to hang out here often, back when Hiramu was a delinquent, much to his embarrassment. Hiramu teases that Ren was awful back then too, causing her to protest. She admits that despite not doing well herself, she had a lot of fun with him. They both recall those happy times. Ren grows serious, confessing that if she hadn't met Hiramu, she might not have been able to lead a proper life. Hiramu thinks she's exaggerating, but Ren insists she's not. Ren says that the person who saved Hiramu back then was Nanaka. Confused, Hiramu starts to ask about Ren, but she cuts him off. She gets to her feet and admits that despite the bad things that happened, she liked it better back then. With a blush and a pained expression, Ren declares that she preferred it because they weren't siblings back then. Ren wistfully wishes their parents hadn't remarried so soon, leaving Hiramu to process her words. He looks at her for a moment before smiling gently and telling her that he is truly happy to be her sibling. His words leave Ren quietly stunned. Their conversation is interrupted by the arrival of Nanaka, who apologizes to Hiramu for keeping him waiting. Nanaka greets Ren as Hiramu's elder sister. She invites Ren to get cake with them, but Ren starts to decline. Ren politely says she has other things to do. Nanaka watches her go with a small, knowing sound. Ren quickly says her goodbyes and rushes off, leaving Hiramu and Nanaka behind. Nanaka tells Hiramu that she's a little jealous of how close he is with Ren. Hiramu is confused by her jealousy. He insists that they are just siblings. Nanaka agrees, her face shadowed. Her expression darkens as she quietly repeats to herself that they are just siblings after all, her smile taking on a menacing quality. Elsewhere, Ren lies alone in a field by a river. She thinks about how her life now is nothing like the old days. She isn't sick of her mom. And her new stepdad and sisters are kind to her. Despite having a seemingly better life, Ren lies with tears in her eyes, wondering why she is crying. She lies alone in the grass, grappling with her unrequited feelings. Meanwhile, Nanaka walks with Hiramu, her cheerful facade hiding a calculating mind. A seemingly minor exchange marks the beginning of a new battle. Hiramu casually says his goodbyes, preparing to head off. Ren questions his choice of words, pointing out that they will be seeing each other again that night. Hiramu wonders if it really matters. Ren firmly insists that it does, demanding he say see you later. A bewildered Hiramu agrees. Walking down a path, Ren spots Ryoko and Sanada waiting for her. Ren and Ryoko exchange greetings, acknowledging it has been some time since they last met. Ren reaches into her bag, ready to get down to business. Ren presents a digital recorder, telling Ryoko it has Hiramu's voice on it. Ryoko hands the device to Sanada for verification. After listening to the samples, Sanada confirms their authenticity, much to Ryoko's delight. Ryoko proudly states that she is now closer to completing her virtual reality version of Hiramu. She thanks Ren for her cooperation, callously noting how helpful it is that she and the clueless Hiramu live under the same roof. Ren breaks down, sobbing that she never wanted to do this, and that she should hate Ryoko for making her. Sanada asks if Ren is okay, but Ryoko assures him she's fine. Ryoko looks down at the weeping Ren and cruelly suggests that this is her hobby. Sanada is taken aback by Ryoko's comment. Ren cries out that she didn't want to do something so unethical, her anguish plain to see. Ryoko leans in with a manic expression, asking if this feeling isn't the absolute best. Her question leaves Sanada visibly unsettled. Ren collects herself, announcing she is going home and asking Ryoko if there is anything else. With a smile, Ryoko requests Hiramu's underwear for her next collection. Ren recoils in disgust, flatly refusing the request. Hanju Ryoko, the manipulative mastermind. Kitagawa Alice, another figure in their circle. Takebana Nanaka, a girl whose true nature Ren claims to know. Ren's inner monologue focuses on Takebana Nanaka. She claims to know Nanaka's real face. She explains that Nanaka went to the cram school where her mother was employed. This connection eventually led to something more sinister. Ren explains that Nanaka deliberately arranged for their parents to get remarried. This is why she cannot bring herself to support Nanaka. She acknowledges that Nanaka may have helped Hiramu in the past. However, it was Ryoko who told Ren the truth about the setup. Because of this revelation, Ren feels indebted to Ryoko and must obey her requests. With grim determination, Ren affirms her support for Ryoko. She explains that this is why she is forced to follow Ryoko's orders, despite her own wishes. Ren continues on her way, her mind racing. She thinks to herself that there is one thing she cannot do for Ryoko. Even if it's her request, she cannot get Hiramu's underwear. She asks herself why that is. The truth is revealed in a shocking internal confession. Ren cannot steal Hiramu's underwear for Ryoko because she is already wearing them herself. She silently laments ever believing in Ryoko, having thought she was a normal person. The battle, as it were, began with a simple suggestion from Kitagawa Alice to walk home with Hiramu. Hiramu readily agrees, suggesting that the three of them can walk together. Alice turns to Nanaka, who has stopped a short distance away, and asks if she has something to say. Nanaka stammers, unable to get her words out, and Alice presses her to just say what is on her mind. Nanaka finally manages to speak, awkwardly pointing out that since Alice always goes home by herself, she was wondering if she had any friends. The question hits a nerve, leaving Alice stunned and speechless. Recovering quickly, she becomes defensive, loudly denying that she is friendless. She insists she can make friends in a flash, turning to Hiramu for validation. Hiramu calmly tells her that making friends is not that simple. Humiliated, Alice storms off, muttering to herself in anger. She questions why friends are even necessary as she walks through the school. In a fit of pique, she vows that she will make the very next person she meets her friend. As she walks down the empty school corridor, she spots another student. Her impulsive determination immediately vanishes as she internally rejects the idea with a defiant thought. Ryoko is clearly displeased by the encounter. Just as she leaves the school, she runs directly into Hanju Ryoko, who recognizes her immediately. Alice tries to walk past her rival, but then pauses, remembering the vow she just made. Noticing Alice's hesitation, Ryoko asks if something is wrong. Ryoko asks about friends, catching Alice off guard. She teases Alice, asking if she's worried about not having any friends. Alice flusters and denies it, but Ryoko sees right through her, laughing at the idea of the great Kitagawa Alice being concerned about such a thing. Ryoko's teasing stops as she begins to open up, explaining she grew up in a large family. She recalls a chaotic household with no privacy, which made her sick of being around people. She laments that this led to her being friendless. Alice immediately accuses her of lying, suggesting that's why she has no friends. Unfazed, Ryoko admits she doesn't care if Alice believes her or not, stating plainly that it's a fact she has no friends. Alice falls silent, considering her words. After a moment of silence on the shrine steps, Alice asks Ryoko to be her friend, but Ryoko counters, suggesting Alice become friends with her instead. Alice questions her motives, wondering if this is just a ploy to get information about Nanaka, but Ryoko dismisses the concern. Alice voices her suspicion that Ryoko is just trying to use her for information. Ryoko begins to walk away, saying they don't have to be friends, prompting a panicked Alice to call out for her to wait. Ryoko stops and turns. With a blush, Alice shyly agrees to her offer. A wave of emotion washes over her as she fully commits to the idea of becoming friends. Seeing her acceptance, Ryoko grins, enthusiastically agreeing. She suggests they go have some fun together, and Alice agrees. As they walk, Ryoko internally mocks Alice, calling her an idiot. She wonders why Alice would choose to believe her after being fooled so many times. She recalls someone warning Alice about the insanity of trying to befriend the enemies of Her Highness Nanaka. Despite the warning, Ryoko simply decides she doesn't care either way. At a game station, Ryoko decides to just play along for now. Meanwhile, Alice is frantically trying to act like a normal friend, reminding herself to interact properly. She focuses on behaving correctly as they play. Her sole motivation is to prove to Hiromu that she is capable of having friends. After Ryoko wins a prize, Alice looks on. She mentally asks if this display is enough proof. Ryoko turns and offers the prize to a stunned Alice. Confused, Alice asks what it is for. Ryoko simply smiles and says it is because they are friends. This simple gesture completely wins Alice over, and she thinks to herself that Ryoko is a goddess. The word friends echoes in her mind, solidifying the new reality. While looking at her phone, Honju Ryoko tells Alice she feels like she's missing something. Alice listens, asking what she has in mind. Ryoko shows her a masked middle-aged man keychain, suggesting she should get it. The two girls banter, with Ryoko joking that Alice's comment makes her regret giving her a stuffed animal, but Alice laughs, saying she's not giving it back. From a doorway, Sakagami Mika watches their friendly exchange with a quiet, unreadable expression. Mika calls out to Sanada-kun as they walk. He admits that he's been wanting to get closer to her. Speaking of which, Sanada brings up a recent observation, Mika's newfound closeness with Kitagawa Alice. He voices his suspicion, questioning if Alice is perhaps trying to get something from Mika. Mika proposes a startling theory, perhaps Alice and Nanaka are teaming up. Sanada vehemently denies it, insisting they would never do such a thing. Mika remains thoughtful, considering the possibility despite his denial. His resolve hardening, Sanada agrees that they should act, just to be on the safe side. On a pedestrian bridge, Mika states their goal plainly: they must break up the bond between the two. Sanada begins to protest, stammering Mika's name. He shouts her name again, his expression one of pure shock and disbelief. Mika's gaze turns icy as she demands to know what he was about to say. Tilting her head back, Mika looks down on him and asks if he is defying her. Sanada immediately backs down, stammering that he would never. With a chilling smile, Mika reminds him that the Sanada family could never go against the Honju family. Sanada stands frozen, trapped by her words. Mika knows this is all for the sake of his pure love for her. Leaning close to Sanada's ear, she whispers that she will personally perform Mika's last rites. Meanwhile, Alice proudly holds up the keychain she just bought. She mutters to herself, confused as to why a stylish girl like Mika would even like this stuff. Still looking at the keychain, Alice blushes and wonders if her friend will be happy with it. She lets out a soft laugh as she walks away. Walking through the school corridors, she looks for her friend. Finally spotting her, Alice calls out Mika's name. But it is not Mika she has found. Mika stands shocked before Honju Ryoko. Ryoko teases her, noting that she seems to be getting friendly with her household's gardener. Ryoko reassures the flustered Mika that it is fine since Sanada seems to be enjoying himself as well. However, Ryoko's expression darkens as she plainly states that she doesn't like Mika being friends with Kitagawa Alice. Mika is utterly shocked, asking what she is. Ryoko dismisses whatever plan she thinks Mika has, stating that trying to outsmart her is useless. Mika desperately denies that she was trying to outsmart her. Ryoko sneers, asking if Mika could possibly want to be friends with a psychotic pathological liar like Alice. With a sinister smile, Ryoko says she doesn't mind if Mika wants to stay friends with her. Ryoko menacingly reminds Mika that the people who know her secret aren't limited to just Nanaka. Mika stands paralyzed by the threat. Ryoko continues, saying that if Mika wants to have a happy school life with Sanada, it would be best for her to do as she is told. Alice waits impatiently at a shrine, wondering why Mika is so late. She finally sees Mika approaching the shrine steps. Alice greets her enthusiastically, telling her she's been waiting. Her expression suddenly shifts, and she reveals she has something for Mika. Calling Mika a liar, Alice coldly asks if she has figured things out yet. Mika screams that she only got close to Alice because she wanted intel about her. Alice is stunned into silence by the outburst. Mika complains that all Alice did was talk as if she were having fun and she couldn't get any useful information. She calls Alice a useless idiot who doesn't even deserve to meet Her Highness. A dark chuckle escapes Alice. She retorts that those were her lines. Alice explodes, shouting that the only thing she wanted was information about Nanaka and that no one would want to be friends with Mika. She adds that she couldn't bring herself to say anything because Mika seemed to be having so much fun. Mika reaches out as if struck. Alice turns her back on the devastated Mika. A voice calls out to Mika. She turns to see Sanada standing there. With tears welling in her eyes, she whispers his name. Letting out a choked sob, she runs and throws herself into his arms. Mika sobs uncontrollably in Sanada's arms. Unseen by them, Nanaka watches the scene unfold. Her eyes burn with rage. She declares that Hanju Ryoko has gone too far. In a dressing room, Hanju Ryoko takes a drag from a cigarette. Her manager enters, asking for a moment of her time. He expresses concern over her smoking, but she dismisses it, telling him not to worry. The manager explains he received a strange message, but Ryoko is initially dismissive. He clarifies that the same message has been coming through emails and letters, which Ryoko finds mockingly scary. He explains that after doing a background check, he's become genuinely concerned. Ryoko's expression shifts to one of shock and curiosity as she sees the information on his phone. The manager looks on helplessly, asking what they should do. The manager reveals the source of the strange messages, an idol group named Shining Mizuki. A wide, excited grin spreads across Ryoko's face as she declares that things are getting interesting. Mika timidly acknowledges the arrival of her leader, Nanaka. Nanaka notes that Mika has not been in high spirits lately, which flusters Mika. Nanaka asks if her mood has anything to do with Kitagawa Alice. Nanaka asks Mika if she thought her actions would go unnoticed. She tells Mika that she dislikes the choice she made in befriending Alice. However, Nanaka clarifies that she dislikes those who would hurt Mika even more. Deeply moved by Nanaka's loyalty, Mika looks up at her in gratitude. Nanaka tells her it's time to go, leaving the distraught Mika behind. Mika agrees with renewed conviction. Their destination is a desolate cliffside where a confrontation awaits. At the confrontation site, Ryoko taunts Nanaka about her demeanor. She then turns her attention to a despondent Mika, asking if something is the matter. Nanaka hesitates for a moment, asking if it is all right to say something that might be rude to Ryoko. Ryoko coolly tells her to go ahead. Sanada grows impatient and tells them to get it over with, a sentiment Ryoko mockingly repeats. Dropping the facade, Nanaka insults Ryoko, calling her a complete eyesore and a bitch. Ryoko is unfazed, amused that Nanaka's true personality has slipped out. Suddenly, a phone starts ringing, interrupting the tense moment. Ryoko teases Sanada about his phone, and he apologetically steps aside to take the urgent call. Sanada nervously answers his phone. He listens to the caller, his expression turning to one of disbelief. He confirms he understands and will inform her. After hanging up, he stands there, sweating and looking pale. Ryoko impatiently asks him what the call was about. Sanada turns to a shocked Ryoko and informs her that she has been indicted. He explains that the group Shining Mizuki has pressed charges against her. The charges he specifies are regarding her appearance. The realization hits Ryoko and she turns away in shock. Her shock turns to fury as she screams at a smirking Takebana Nanaka, accusing her of orchestrating the indictment. The morning after Ryoko's downfall, Tanpoponi calls out to a girl named Ren-chan, who is leaving. Tanpoponi addresses Alice, who she calls Poponi. She explains that since her favorite girl Ryoko has retired, she has no reason to stay. Turning her attention, Tanpoponi tells Alice there's something she wants to say. With a wicked grin, Tanpopuni calls Alice an idiot, marking that even as one of the 4 heavenly monarchs, Ryoko was the weakest. Alice calmly asks if Tanpopuni is finished. Meanwhile, the competition for Hiramu's attention continues as one girl reminds him of a place they could eat together. Another rival steps forward, timidly presenting Hiramu with a bento she prepared for him. The girl brightly suggests that she and Hiramu eat lunch together. Alice seethes in the background, witnessing the scene. From a distance, Sana-kun observes the unfolding drama. He is utterly bewildered by the scene, questioning why this is happening. Sana-kun questions how everyone can be okay with the fact that a main character just disappeared from their lives. He finds Mika-chan looking out over the school grounds. He admits to Mika-chan that while he knows Ryoko was a jerk, he's still unsettled. He grows more agitated, questioning how it's possible for them to remain so normal after everything. Mika-chan softly states that she still remembers everything. Alice, watching from a distance, muses that Ryoko must have been very important to him. Mika-chan tearfully insists that she doesn't want to forget. She explains that she wants to preserve Sana-kun's precious memories. Sana-kun looks at her, moved by her words. He begins to speak about Ryoko but trails off. Mika-chan acknowledges that Ryoko was the cause of the rift between her and Alice. Sana-kun tells her that even so, it's fine. She tells him that if he doesn't want her to forget, then she will hold on to the memories. As Sana-kun watches in surprise, Mika-chan embraces him. She explains that since she has already lost Alice, she cannot bear to lose anyone else. While embracing him, Mika-chan confesses that she doesn't want to lose Sana-kun too, revealing her honest feelings as Alice watches. Suddenly, Tanpopuni appears, calling out to Alice. Alice greets her, noting that it has been a while. Tanpopuni gleefully points out that with Hanju Ryoko gone, Alice's objective is now much closer. Tanpopuni asks why Alice seems down, suggesting she should be celebrating. She continues her taunts, asking what's going on and accusing Alice of still being bound by lies. She excitedly wonders what new lies Alice is concocting. The accusation hangs in the air, and Alice quietly considers the word lies. Tanpopuni doubles down, asking what's wrong and insisting that lies are all Alice has. Alice silently questions if lies are truly all she has left. She refutes the idea out loud, surprising Tanpopuni. Tanpopuni is stunned, realizing Alice might have something else. Her curiosity piqued, she wonders if Alice could possibly have something honest. Tanpopuni becomes frantic, desperate to know what it could be. The idea of Alice possessing a truth is a shocking revelation to her. Alice makes her declaration. The one truth she possesses is her feelings for Hiramu. As an angelic version of Mika watches over her, she internally affirms that her love for him is the only thing about her that is absolutely true. The scene is set at a tranquil shrine, under the shadow of a large torii gate. Sensing the heavy atmosphere, Mika-chan asks what's wrong. Alice, with a determined gaze, simply states that she has something to say. The two girls stand apart on the shrine steps, the weight of unspoken words hanging between them. With newfound determination, Alice faces Mika and announces that she is going to confess her feelings to Hiramu. Mika is stunned by the declaration. Alice calmly listens, her expression unreadable. Mika stammers in disbelief. She reminds Alice that she thought she was getting married. Alice plainly admits that her supposed engagement was just another lie. Mika's shock deepens. Noticing her friend's reaction, Alice asks what's wrong. Mika sarcastically asks if the world is ending. Alice dismisses her friend's dramatic reaction, trying to explain her change of heart. Alice explains that she simply wants to be honest with herself from now on. Mika looks on, her expression softening. Looking at her friend, Alice says that it is all thanks to her. Mika, flustered, tells Alice to stop. When Alice asks why, Mika begs her not to say thank you. She explains that it makes her feel as though something is ending between them. Alice reassures Mika that nothing is ending. In fact, she declares with a bright smile, this is just the beginning. The moment is observed from a distance by Nanaka-chan. As they walk together, Mika promises Alice that she will always be her friend. Mika cries, pleading for Alice not to go. But Alice walks away, determined to see her confession through. She arrives at the school. She finds Hiramu waiting for her. Hiramu approaches Alice, asking what she wanted to talk about. She confirms that she did. Gathering her courage, Alice admits that she knows it's late for this. Her eyes fill with emotion as she prepares to confess. With all her heart, Alice looks directly at Hiramu and tells him that she loves him. She reaffirms her failings, telling him she is truly deeply in love with him. Hiramu is left completely stunned and blushing. Taking his silence as an opening, Alice asks him to please go out with her. The request finally snaps Hiramu out of his stupor, and he frantically tells her to hold on. Struggling to find the right words, Hiramu reveals the shocking truth: he's already going out with Nanaka. Alice's world grinds to a halt. Her mind is completely bewildered. Sweating, she asked him since when. Hiramu casually explains that they've been dating since they were first years. Alice stares blankly, unable to respond. Seeing her stunned silence, he innocently asks if he forgot to tell her. Alice explodes, shouting that he never told her. A flustered Hiramu can only apologize. From around a corner, Mika and Nanaka witness the entire exchange. Mika turns to Nanaka in utter shock, yelling her nickname, "Your Highness." She can't believe that Nanaka was already going out with him. Nanaka smugly confirms it. Mika, confused, recalls Nanaka saying she wasn't even pretending to be his girlfriend. Nanaka clarifies that she wasn't pretending. She cheerfully declares that she was already his girlfriend. Mika is left speechless. Mika struggles to understand, asking why Nanaka would go to such lengths. With a brilliant, carefree smile, Nanaka gives her simple reason: because it was fun. The revelation is too much for Mika. She collapses to the floor in defeat. After a moment, she gets up and playfully tells Nanaka to stop playing around. Nanaka just giggles mischievously. 10 years later, the story jumps forward in time. An adult Mika-chan, now sporting short hair, appears. She is greeted by her husband, Sana-kun. Sana-kun playfully chides her for using his old name, reminding her that she's a Sanada now too. He asks how her checkup went. Mika, placing a hand on her pregnant belly, replies that it went well. They smile at each other, reflecting on the decade that has passed. Mika recalls getting married to Sana-kun. She started working for the company founded by Nanaka. Meanwhile, Nanaka made peace with her rival, Shining Mizuki. She then once again stood in Hiramu's way, continuing the battle for his affection. The competition heated up as other rivals joined the fray. After Alice disappeared for half a year, she eventually returned to the fray. Over the years, countless other love interests appeared and disappeared, all vying for Hiramu's attention. The battle for Hiramu's affection raged on. In the present, an exasperated Mika asks Nanaka when it will all finally stop. Nanaka simply smiles, admitting she never wants the fun to end, as everyone is still trying to marry Hiramu. Then Nanaka drops one final bombshell: she and Hiramu have been married for 3 years. Mika is floored, shouting that she's only just finding this out now. Nanaka simply laughs. The two friends share a playful moment overlooking the city. And so, even now, the battle continues.